Hold on, my child. I love you, but you done gone too far. Answer me how you made it to walk for free today. And you don't have a running car. Oh, you always complain, angel. But this time, you didn't cross the line. Sitting around throwing dirt upon my character. Using the same breath that's mine. Father, you're right. I crossed the line. Always got something to say. If only I could focus on the right thing. It's you that I need. Even in my hardest times, you provide for me. Even the words that I'm saying, it's coming to me as I say it, and I ain't playing. You see, think not on what you need to say. Yeah. You bless me with the words. Thank you for all you do. Father, wherever you go, I wanna come to. Oh, Abba, wherever you go, higher and Yeshaya, I wanna come to. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Take me wherever you go. Lift me up, yeah. When my spirit's so lost. Take me wherever you go. Lift me up when I'm lost. I owe it all to you. Yeah. I owe it all to you. 'Cause that's what you deserve. I owe it all to you. Oh, 'cause that's what you deserve. You deserve for me. And I will climb the tallest mountain for you. Yeah. Oh, and I will build the most beautiful fountain that I can resist. But I pray you mold me to what you want me to be. And I'm willingly gonna be a living sacrifice for thee. Mm. Oh, oh, oh. wanna come to. Yeah.
All right, Shabbat Shalom, family. Let me know I'm coming through clear. And get a con. All praise to the Most High, the creator of the heavens and the earth, the seas and everything that's in them, the things that's invisible, the things that visible, the same power and authority of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, the same people who the Most High God made the covenant with, not only with those in the times of antiquity, but for the generations to come perpetually, saying that we must keep his commandments. And by doing so, we'll be blessed. But if we broke those commandments or transgressed or committed sin, then we will suffer curses behind it. All right. All glory and esteem to Ahia in the name of his son Yeshaya with utterance from the Holy Spirit, Hakwadash Rawat. I pray everybody's week has been prosperous, blessed, that the Most High has, kept you all, preserved you, you and your families. All praise to the Most High for the feast days, the season of it, praying that the enemy has been bound or anything that you're dealing with. I pray the Most High strengthen you to overcome it and to get through it. We need one another. We need each other, Israel. All right. So today, I want to shine light on something that's going on in the news, and that is they saying that the Asian people are being discriminated against. All right, and it's the truth, and that's fine. Uh, but in that case, we got to pay attention to the narrative as we seeing that it's being promoted and shown that they're being discriminated against. Is taking away things from us the same way that society rolled out rights for the LGBTQ community. That was saying, well, we've been discriminated against. We're minorities. So they come in and then they start to reap the benefits of different movements. Meanwhile, capitalizing off our suffering and using it to further their agendas. Same thing that's going on here with the Asians. Let's not be mistaken that when this was first coming out, or what triggered all of this, it wasn't the Negro people, it wasn't Israelites. You had Donald Trump in office, and he stated out of his mouth, he said the China virus. He said it came from Wuhan. So by him saying it, it promoted or it increased the mindset of certain people, not everybody, to start to be discriminative against the Asian folks. But if we're gonna talk about it, I like to talk about things in fullness. We're gonna look at how they've discriminated against us though. Welcome to our world. And they talking about dealing with it for a year or a month, 6 months. We've been dealing with it for years, decades, and centuries. Welcome to our world. All right, so when I start off, I want to go to this video here. I'm gonna share my screen, Saints. Uh, share the screen. So let's look at this. This is what's happening. Here we go.
The suspect, who we believe committed these crimes here today in Cherokee County, is in custody in Crisp County.
8 people were killed and 1 injured in attacks on 3 spas in the Atlanta metropolitan area. Cherokee County, Georgia authorities have identified 21-year-old Robert Aaron Long as the shooting suspect. They believe he shot 5 people, killing 4, at Young's Asian Massage Parlor on Tuesday. Later that night, there were shootings at 2 more businesses 30 miles away from Young's, at Gold Massage Spa and Aromatherapy Spa, bringing the death toll to 8 people. Atlanta authorities believe Long is a suspect in all of these crimes. Long was apprehended by law enforcement 150 miles south of Atlanta.
Troopers and deputies set up along the interstate and made contact with the suspect at about 8:30 p.m.
Despite 6 of the 8 victims being of Asian descent, Long allegedly told police the attacks were not racially motivated.
The suspect did take responsibility for the shootings. He said that early on once we began the interviews with him. He claims that these, and as the chief said, this is still early, but he does claim that it was not racially motivated.
Whatever the motivation was for this guy, we know that many of the victims, the majority of the victims were Asian. We also know that this is an issue that's happening across the country. It is unacceptable, it is hateful, and it has to stop.
The FBI is now assisting local law enforcement with this investigation. This is Inside Edition Digital.
Okay. All right. So we see here what he said it wasn't racially motivated. Nonetheless, I'm extracting from this family that it's being pointed out that the agents are being discriminated against. All right, and again, that's the truth. But my problem with that is we've been discriminated against on a higher level way. But so, I stand for our people. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna speak on it in certain situations from the perspective of Israelites, because they'll use this whole situation to take away things that we need, as they always do, which we know we waiting for the kingdom though. All right, but let me get this verse. Let's go to Second Esdras 16. Second Esdras 16, verse 1. Because we've been suffering these things for way, way longer. And if people don't know, if you don't know and you tuning in, I want you to understand that a lot of times when people talk about racism, discrimination, oftentimes we go straight to the Europeans, we go straight to the Edomites or white people, but we've been discriminated, we hated by these Asian people too. You going into the massage parlors, as shown, you going into uh the nail salons. A lot of our brothers and sisters going into the beauty supply stores over and over and over, and these people don't show love. They only want the money from you. All right. But Second Esdras 16 and 1 says, "Woe be unto thee, Babylon and Asia." All right, woe or destruction be unto thee, unto you, Babylon and Asia. Woe be unto thee, Egypt and Syria. All right, I'm bringing out this verse, family, to let you know the Most High got an issue with these people. He got an issue with them. All right, and they'll dress it up a lot of times to say that, well, we don't discriminate against y'all like that. It's the American people who had y'all enslaved. All right, we're gonna delve into some of that information too. So let's go here. Let me go here for a second. Uh, share my screen again. We want to go here to Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera got some information for us, family. Let's see. Let's see. Bear with me. Here we go. Now, with this particular video, found I'm gonna stop through certain parts, but let's listen to it.
China stands accused of inhumane treatment of Africans during the coronavirus outbreak. That includes forceful testing, quarantine, and evictions. So is this just another form of racism?
Hold on. China is being discriminative against, it's saying, African people, melanated people. All right. But it said during the coronavirus, these people being evicted and everything. So now we seeing the shift of the discrimination then, huh? Y'all discriminated against quote unquote Africans, but we know that groups us into that melanated peoples all together, evicting people and blaming us for the coronavirus when everything kicked off.
Or is Beijing just trying to curb the pandemic? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the program. I'm Rochelle Carey. They are China's key trading partners, but some African leaders have been angered over Beijing's reported discrimination against their citizens and demanded answers from the Chinese government over reports Africans are being targeted because of fears they could spread coronavirus. The
Mm.
recent rise in COVID 19 infections in China has been linked to people from abroad. The Chinese government is worried there could be a second wave and has stepped up its scrutiny of foreigners. African students and expatriates have reportedly been evicted from their homes, tested for coronavirus several times, and are being shunned in public. The incidents have sparked a diplomatic row with the African Union, African governments, and the United States. The Chinese ambassadors have been summoned by Africa.
So they're being forced multiple times to be tested for coronavirus against their will. Aside from the fact of you being shunned in public, like we may get to it in this one, but at McDonald's and different establishments, they had signs on the doors saying black people were not allowed in their businesses. And I'm saying all this because, again, it's being promoted through the news and throughout the earth right now that the Asian people being discriminated against to gain sympathy. If you want to have sympathy for them, okay, not against it. But don't forget yourself in this situation. Hebrews, Israelites, don't forget what we've been going through. Don't forget what they've done because the Most High ain't forgot it. That's why he said, woe be unto Babylon and Asia. They work together.
African officials in different countries. In a rare open critique of Beijing, the Speaker of Nigeria's House of Representatives tweeted a video of himself pressing its envoy on the reported ill treatment of Africans. He was heard saying, "It's almost undiplomatic the way I'm talking, but it's because I'm upset about what's going on." The Speaker of the House asked the diplomats to explain scenes that have gone viral on social media platforms. The United States consulate in Guangzhou has advised African Americans to stop traveling to the city. In a statement, it said this: police ordered bars and restaurants not to serve clients who appear to be of African origin.
Read that again. Said the U.S. had to put out this order. Police order bars and restaurants not to serve clients who appear to be of African origin. Now, how would you appear to be of African origin? Melanation, that brown skin. Again, it didn't matter if you was African, Hamite, or Shemite. They saying, man, whoever brown, they don't need to be in here because of the skin tone. All right, but it goes deeper than that. Goes deeper than that. If you go back to one of the videos, it's not about color, it's about bloodline. Check that out on the channel. All right, but right here, this was issued out saying don't serve these people.
Local officials launched a round of mandatory tests for COVID 19, followed by mandatory self quarantine for anyone with African contacts, regardless of recent travel history.
Mm.
African Americans have also reported that some businesses and hotels refuse to do business with them. China says its policy towards Africa hasn't changed and denies discrimination against what it calls its African brothers. This is what the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson had to say about accusations made by the U.S.
在当前国际社会
Under the current situation where the international community urgently needs to work together and fight against the epidemic, it is irresponsible and immoral for the US side to make those remarks and sow discord. We urge the US to focus on containing the epidemic at home. Its attempt to drive a wedge between China and Africa's relationship will never succeed.
针对近期
In response to the recent African side's concerns regarding their citizens in Guangdong province, the Guangdong authorities have already conducted an investigation and taken a series of new measures. We believe that the issue will be properly solved through the joint efforts of China and Africa.
Let's bring in our guest now from Beijing,
Yeah.
Victor Gao, Vice President of the Center for China and Globalization. From Wuhan is Gabriella Dillon, a medical student from Uganda, and from
Mm-hmm.
Hong Kong, Keith Richford, Director of the University of Hong Kong's Journalism and Media Studies Center. Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it very much. I'm going to start with you, Gabriella. You're in Wuhan, obviously, which is
Now listen to this sister's testimony of her time being in Wuhan and the treatment of our type. Even if she's a Hamite, but just being melanated, we're gonna deal with it on the surface level. But looking at the hypocrisy of the discrimination issue against Asian people, but what's going on against our people in their countries.
where this pandemic started. Um, just what is daily life like there now? What are the restrictions that you are still dealing with?
Life is better. Life is back to Wuhan. So far, the locals, it's mostly the Chinese people who are able to go to the supermarkets and the banks and the shops. The foreigners, not so much because we haven't yet been cleared. We haven't yet got our health certificates and the health codes that we need in order to go to the banks and the supermarkets and all the other places. Otherwise, we can get permission to leave the homes and walk around in the streets, which is better than nothing. So that's how life is now.
It's better than nothing. That now they've made it to a point where they can leave their homes. But he said, in the meanwhile, the only people that was able to go to banks, grocery stores, so on and so forth, were the China people, the Asian people. It was them that was able to do this. Said they had to get the health certificates and approval. Said that life is bitter.
So, as far as getting this permission, these tests and screenings that are needed for you to kind of go wherever you want, it's dealt differently with Chinese as opposed to foreigners. It's a different type of setup.
It's the same setup, but it hasn't yet included the foreigners yet, because the Chinese right now are able to do it, but we can't do it. So in other words, it's like they haven't yet found a way for us to go out there as foreigners.
Is the fear, or maybe I don't know if that's too strong of a word, maybe not, the fear or concern of a second wave of this happening, is that palpable there? Is that something that you all really feel there, Gabrielle?
Definitely, second wave is something that we're all worried. Everyone's taking the necessary precautions. People are still using the masks. People are staying indoors. Not so many people are on the streets, but once in a while, people moving around. And like today, I actually asked for permission to go out and take a walk, and most shops were open, and there were lots of Chinese.
Okay. So I'm gonna post the link to this particular video within the comments so that you all are able to go and look at it and check behind me. Um, but what I want to do, I want to take it further because you're gonna have Victor here. He gonna give his response about things. But then I want to get to this brother here. I think his name is Keith Robert, but I want this particular. And go for his response to things.
Sending masks and medical equipment. So on an official, my experience.
Keith, I want to ask about that. The feeling that Gabriella is describing. So often, people, something that a government is doing gets attributed to the people. It's not always the same thing. There's things that the Chinese government can do that isn't necessarily what you feel from Chinese people, like out in the community, or Asian people, depending on what country you're in. What has your experience been, Keith? It's not all the same.
It's not all the same. My experience is that on the official level that Victor is talking about, China wants to have good relationships with Africa, with African countries. This goes all the way back to Mao Zedong, who wanted to have fraternal relations with African countries. China today, modern China, is investing a lot in Africa. They built the African Union headquarters. They're building soccer stadiums. They built the road from Nairobi to Mombasa. They're doing
also
They're creating a new infrastructure in Africa to benefit themselves. That's a whole nother research and study you have to do for yourself. It's a lot of information on it. They came in, it wasn't to actually build with these people in the lands of Africa, within their country or their continent. These people came in on the move, secretly to benefit themselves. But so this is why you're hearing about it saying they're building soccer stadiums, they're building train stations, so on and so forth.
they're also sending masks and medical equipment there.
Sending masks and medical equipment. So, on an official level, China has great relations with Africa. They want good relations with Africa. On a person to person level, a lot of Chinese, many, I'm not saying 100%, but many still discriminate against Africans. They see Africans as inferior. If a black person like myself, who's from the United States,
They see black people as inferior. All right. So this is what I want to do here. 1340. I'm gonna go back. So I want to show something. We're gonna take it back for a second. Let me show this here. On the case of things being inferior, we're gonna go to this professor. On the note of inferiority. Gonna deal with some genomes and genetics a bit.
Um, now, really, this is going to sound silly, but this is really important. Cutting edge genetics. One of the areas I'm really lucky to I'm blessed to work in three distinct areas of biology: immunology, genetics, and reproduction. And on the genetic side, I get to go to conferences and hear about advances in genetics in all species. And I was just at one a couple of weeks ago down at the Cold Spring Harbor Lab in Long Island, and I learned a bit about what's being known about the genome of Neanderthals, the genetic makeup of Neanderthals. That the genome sequencers.
Neanderthals family, cavemen, cave women, that type of mindset in people. So what we're gonna see here, as you can see the title, college professor claims that black people are the only race that are 100% pure human. Uh, Stellar Star. The song playing is by Tevin White. You can find it on SoundCloud. Um, I wanna come too. Tevin White. I wanna come too.
Like led by Svante Pabo, who works in Germany, has taken tiny little fragments of Neanderthal bones, isolated DNA, and determined the genome of the Neanderthal, and used that information to um, determine, using genetic methods, how long ago Neanderthals and humans were a single species, where the common ancestor was. They've also been able to compare um, human genomes and ask the question of whether there's any evidence of Neanderthal genes in the human genome. And they found that there is. And the amount is quite significant, upwards of 5 to 7%. Neanderthals used to live in the Neander Valley. You could have called it the Cayuga Lake Basin, but that's where they lived. Um, and out of Africa came the modern humans, and the word the geneticist uses admix.
Out of Africa. Now I want to be real specific. We know about the continent Africa, but we come from Jerusalem. We come from the land of Israel. All right. So we definitely know that because of the melanation, because of the spirit that the Most High has given us, that we are the real humans based off I was talking to a brother even about how we as Israelites, Hebrews, or just common names for anybody who can't follow what I'm saying right now. Black people, brown people. We oftentimes, from what I'm seeing, when we get harassed, we try to prove to society and everybody watching that we civilized or that we're civilized. Seeing different cases where brothers and sisters in our own neighborhoods And then they get to being harassed and followed by someone who feels like they shouldn't be in their neighborhood. What are you doing over here? And they're like, man, I live over here. Okay, then that escalates into the person following them fighting. You know what I mean? Putting their hands on them. And in the midst of this, these brothers or sisters, they still hollering about, sir, don't hit me. Don't do so. Listen, once it gets physical, we pass the line of logic. They've crossed the line of logic to feel that they should put their hands on you. So if it's not a more greater display of being civilized people than what we've done, out of everything that we suffer, instead of going out to, and I'm not provoking or telling anybody to go out, take up arms and start a war, kill, or anything else. But I'm saying our response to being gunned down continuously, being given the worst of things, our response wasn't that we took up arms and went to war. We grabbed signs and protested in the streets with megaphones saying Black Lives Matter. I don't know how much more civilized you can get. That's a peaceful response. And then even in that case, you had these Gentile nations to infiltrate that, and they were the ones that started the riots, setting fires to the building and so on and so forth.
They admixed with the Neanderthals. And they all used to live in caves in those days like this. Came out of Africa, admixed with the Neanderthals. This was Neanderthal territory. There was another group of Neanderthal-like creatures called the Denisovans. They lived up here in Siberia, and they have their genome has been sequenced. They were distinct from the Neanderthals. And so you can find in people of European and Asian ancestry evidence
of European and Asian ancestry, Neanderthal and Denisovan. Denisovan being a different type and form of a caveman. So like I done jumped ahead.
using genetic methods. How long ago? And the amount is quite significant, upwards of 5, and they live in caves in those days like this, of Neanderthal-like creatures called the Denisovans. They lived up here in Siberia, and they have their genome has been sequenced. They were distinct from the Neanderthals, and so you can find in people of European and Asian ancestry evidence of about 7%, 5 to 10% of your genome is common with that of Neanderthals. We've been separated from them for 30,000 years or so. And in some of the tribes in Papua New Guinea, in those islands up there, there's evidence for a different kind of genome, which is probably the Denisovan genome. And they might have 7% Neanderthal and 5% Denisovan. So they might be 12 or 15% different from us. And in fact,
so what we're hearing here, European having a 7% Neanderthal, Asian having 7% Neanderthal and 5% Denisovan, making them 7% less of a human or 12% less than a human.
The Africans who came out from Africa have no evidence of any Neanderthal genes in them. No.
Now, when he's saying Africans, he's talking about Israelites. He said that the Israelites that came up from Africa, they have no traces or genome of the caveman inside them. Now, we go on here because we just heard on the other video that we were watching, many of the Asian people look at us as inferior. But who's really inferior? This is not a study that I put together. This man put it together. Said he's studying 3 different fields of science and come to find out that they're 7% less human.
No evidence of that mixture. So they're the real pure humans, Homo sapiens. Really, really interesting. It gives you a lot to think about. Right.
All right. So you see on the left says Number 44, that's a brother right there. The brother that's playing football or Israelite. All right. You see what y'all saying over here in the comments. Shabbat shalom, everybody tuning in. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Amina said, I'm not having sympathy for the liars. I feel you. Indeed, all these nations gonna get it. All of the nations gonna get it. We gotta understand, man, we've been programmed to feel like we so sympathetic for everybody else but our own a lot of time. All right, let me get back to it though. So we're gonna go back, share the screen again. Go back to the brother. Let's see. Come on.
Speaks English, wants to go teach English in China, we would be turned away because superior. If a black person like myself, who's from the United States and speaks English, wants to go teach English in China, we would be turned away because we're not white. They think an English teacher should be white.
See that? Discrimination. I'm just pointing out the facts of what we deal with. I'm just pointing out the facts that and it doesn't mean that I'm hateful or that I'm racist because I love my people. Because I prefer the well-being and looking out the welfare of my people. I don't have to hate you to love my people. All right, so here we are. I'm gonna stop it. So he said they feel that teachers should be white. Discrimination. So let me show you something else. Let me show you some more discrimination. Woe unto Asia. Because a lot of us don't know this. Some of us say, hey, Bruce Lee was the man, so hey, I love them all. Jet Li is the man, so I love them all. Okay. Let's see what they think about us, though. Here we go. Mm. So he was dirty, black, and brown. Then he had to be mentally unstable to allow her to put the detergent pack in his mouth and eat it. But look, this how he come out clean. Basically, this same commercial family received a whole lot of flack. People had a problem with this. All right, but he was dirty and all of that when he looked like me and you. But look how he looked when he clean. Got some sense, I guess. This what's going on. And I'm not sharing this information to make people angry. I'm sharing it to shed light on what's really going on. This is what you should be aware of before we feed into the narrative of the people saying, listen, the Asians are being discriminated against. Let's stand behind them and with them. Now, I'm not saying it's all Asians. I'm not saying it. But there's a fight that I'm not willing to get engaged in when my people are still being discriminated against. We still ain't getting nothing. All right, let me share the screen again. So along with that, let's go into a little bit of the Asian history. On the side where you do have a lot of the Asians that respect us. I got a brother, say him and his wife went to it was either Japan or China. But they have, melanated statues, and they look at us as superior. They understand it. They got great respect for us. So now I'm gonna take it on to this part. Let's see. Mm-mm-mm-mm. There we go. Share the screen. Let me go back to the top. Now this is Atlanta Black Star. The world of Sakanuyi no Tomiramaro, Black Shogun of early Japan. I'm not sure if I pronounced it right. But I'm gonna scroll down, and again, I'm gonna post the links to all the information y'all will be seeing, so that you can go check behind me. All right, right here we seeing a image. This person right here is melanated. The rest of them, they Asiatic. All right, it says the black presence in early Japan. Although the island nation of Japan, occupying the extreme eastern extensions of Asia, is assumed by many to have been historically composed of an essentially homogeneous population and culture. The accumulated evidence, much of which has been quietly ignored, places the matter in a vastly different light. And though far more study needs to be done on the subject, it seems indisputable that black people in Japan played an important role from the most remote phases of antiquity into at least the ninth century. All right. So let me read on too, just to get into some of the architecture. It says meaningful indications of an African presence in ancient Japan have been unearthed from the most remote ages of the Japanese past. To begin with, and as a significant example, a February 15th, 1986 report carried by the Associated Press chronicled that the oldest Stone Age hut in Japan has been unearthed near Osaka. Archaeologists date the hut to about 22,000 years ago and say it resembles the dugouts of African Bushmen, melanated peoples. According to the Wazuyo, Hiroshi of Osaka, prefectural of education's cultural division. Okay. So I just wanted to go there to get that piece found to show that even the architecture in certain parts of the continent countries throughout the continent show a presence of melanated peoples having influence on these people. Let me scroll down some more. This is the melanated statue, black statues that they show. They said they see and view us as gods in certain parts. Now, again, like I said, I deal with things in full spectrum as much as possible. Talked about the discrimination and them looking at us as inferior. You got some that see us as superior. All right, we already know, along these other nations, according to Isaiah 14, 1 and 2, these two will be servers and handmaids to Israelites. All right, it says, as to linguistics, in 1987, former Senegalese President Leopold Sedar Senghor noted that the people who populate the island of Japan today are descendants from blacks. Let us not forget that the first population of Japan was black and gave to Japan their first language. There we go. Ain't it wonderful to be a Hebrew? Ain't it a blessing to be an Israelite? All right, but I'm going down. All right, within this section, it's showing different scholars who even saw that as well as the Japanese people, Asiatic people, veering us that they know that we were the original Japanese as well. All right, let me get this one here. Perhaps the first such scholar, well, let me go up. Of the black people of early Japan, the most picturesque single figure was Sukanoyo no Tomiramaro, a warrior symbolized in Japanese history as a paragon of military virtues, is an important person right here. And a man who has captured the attention of some of the most distinguished scholars of 20th century America. All right, so now I want to jump down to where we got W.E.B. Du Bois. It says Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois Born 1868, died 1963. Perhaps the greatest scholar in American history, is also an Israelite. In his book, The Negro, first published in 1915, placed Sukanoyi to Muramaru within a list of some of the most distinguished black rulers and warriors in antiquity. All right. Now I want to scroll down. You see this picture here? That's how they see us. And then in the meanwhile, too, I want y'all to check out Nobunaga Oda and Yasuke. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but Yasuke. Nobunaga and Nobunaga Oda and Yasuke. All right. Let me see. Cause I want to get what this Negroid general, what he said. He was a samurai. It says there is a very evident Negro strain in a certain element of the Japanese population, particularly those in the South. Ember says the Negro element in Japan is recognizable by the Negro aspect of certain inhabitants with dark and often blackish skin, frizzly or curly hair. The Negritos are the oldest race of the Far East. I'm going to read it again. The Negritos, Negroes, melanated people, are the oldest race of the Far East. It has been proved that they once lived in eastern and southern China as well as in Japan, where the Negrito element is recognizable still in the population. All right. Rogers mentioned Tamura Morrow briefly in the first volume of World's Great Men of Color, also published in 1946. Regrettably, Rogers was forced to confess that I have come across certain names in China and Japan, such as Sukanoye, Tamura Morrow, the first shogun of Japan, but I did not follow them up. Sukanoye, here, this is what I was getting to, Saints. Says Sukanoye Tamura was a warrior symbolized in early Japanese history as a paragon of military virtues. Could it be that this was what Dr. Diop was alluding to in his first major book, Nations, Negres et Culture, when he directed our attention to the tantalizing and yet profound Japanese proverb? So this is something that they all say. Says, for a samurai to be brave, he must have a bit of black blood. In other words, you can't be a samurai if you ain't got that Negro in you. This is something that's known amongst the Japanese people. All right, so I'm gonna post that too for you. So, family, again, we going through the information to show. They saying, as far as this discrimination, listen, they need to make up for what they've already done. It's switching over. And again, I got to bring it out that Trump was the first one saying the China virus. We didn't say that. You didn't hear Negroes saying it. He brought it out and promoted it. All right, so let me share my screen again. Let's get some more information. What else did I need you all to see? Let's see. Oh, yeah. So we'll look at this here. So we saw earlier that Chinese have the relations with Africans, and they went over to set up infrastructure.
We are discriminated every day. You cannot enter a mall without questions.
Mm.
Even in the buses, we are discriminated.
We don't know where they are taking us to. We have been in quarantine for 14 days now. We don't know where they are taking us to. Everybody's here. Everybody's here at this hotel.
Chinese are just taking advantage because they know at our family nini, tutawapeleka nowhere. Because those who should represent us, our voices who should talk for us, are not concerned at all.
Look at everybody outside. Everybody's outside.
Mm.
Look at the Chinese police. They won't allow us to rest.
Mm.
They took us away from our house. We don't have anywhere to live. They are pursuing us. Why?
The hashtag China Must Explain has been trending for the better part of the week after Chinese nationals were accused of kicking Africans from their homes for allegedly importing COVID 19. This
Mm.
is said to be happening in Guangzhou district, where less than 20 Africans have tested positive for COVID 19.
Mm.
Today, for the first time,
So we seeing now this all happened before we hearing in the what we hearing in the news today, family. Evicting the people, following them. It said people who had been over there for years. They were established in China in these Asiatic areas and everything. They evicted the people. Wouldn't allow them into hotels. Wouldn't allow them into restaurants. The people who suffering discrimination, quote unquote, here in Babylon, they're not witnessing it. They're not witnessing it. Let me see y'all. Let me see what y'all saying over here. Let's see. Adira Yasharala, the Most High made us better than any strange nations, even physically. Okay, come. Deuteronomy 7 and 6. Let's get that. I'm gonna bring that out. Because some may say, oh, where you get that from? Deuteronomy 7 and 6. Okay. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7, verse 6, family, says, for thou art an holy people unto the Most High thy power. The Most High thy power have chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. So that's discrimination from the Most High. So when we see in discrimination, I'm fine with it in a certain sense. I'm gonna say in a sense, I understand if you for your race, I didn't say it before. I have no problem with people who for their race. Just don't have a problem with me as I'm for mine, for my nation. All right, but it says here the Most High made us a special above all people. You see, I free to say it in the marches with MLK. I never ever saw one Oriental march with us. Like that's something. Shabbat Shalom, everybody tune in. Shabbat Shalom. Seeing what y'all saying over here in the comments. Let's see. Princess Yafa, Shabbat Shalom. Ak Malachi Hebrew, Shabbat Shalom. Thanks, Dad. Shabbat Shalom. RMG the one, Shabbat Shalom. V Yapa Yashrala, Shabbat Shalom, Saint. Yael, AI, Sister Regina. Bama, Shabbat Shalom. Keisha, Wheezy, Taj Bala, Sister Alfreda, and everybody else that's tuning in who haven't made a comment. All right. Let me see what you say here. While they are in Africa right now today, Chinese making them get the vaccine, maybe they should be protecting their own. Indeed. All right, family. Now today, I really want to just focus on that particular situation. I do have something else on my spirit to discuss. And it's more so about, through time of coming into this fold, newcomers into it, things that they would see and witness. All right. And I want to get to the gritty of it, and I didn't want that particular message to clash with what we're talking about today. So, Father willing, I may come on a little later on this evening, or if the Father allow me to see the hour, or if not, it'll be sometime through the week. All right, y'all got any questions, comments, or concerns for me? And I'm gonna start posting these the links, posting these links into the comment box. Any questions, comments, or concerns for me, Saints? Let's see. Oh yeah. So here's the one for 100%. 100% Negroes are 100% human. This link. Uh, that one. Fine. The article with the brother who was a samurai. You know, he obtained that title as shogun. So it was the first one. It's the highest title you can receive. But he said that you must have black blood in order to be a samurai. Okay, there's that article. Let's see. Oh yeah, the racist commercial. Hmm. And the discrimination in Kenya. All right, because they created the train station, family. They created the train stations over in Kenya, but then they turn around and say, "Listen, for the when the cameras on, when we promoting what we've done over here, you know, we'll let you Kenyans drive, but when the cameras off, can't nobody drive but Chinese." All right. So that's all I have for today, Saints. Um, Keep the faith. Be encouraged. Do not allow the spirit of fear to enter into you, to direct your thoughts and guide you in these times. Let's stay humble with a contrite spirit, continuously before the Father, denying ourselves and fighting the flesh. I know it get hard, but it's possible. All right, so with that, I say shalom, shalom. One love, family.